There. Okay, there we go. Now let me get off Discord and then. Hmm. Okay. So okay. Uh, Let me see. Is there some kind of comment section here? Can people chat? I don't even know. My first time using this thing. I guess there is. Yep, there it is. Okay. That's a lot like a chat. Okay. I almost forgot what the point of today was. Can I just is lecture over? Can we just go home? Um, so okay. Yeah, I mean that was fun. It failed, that's the first time that I've had a YouTube stream like that fail um, so completely. And I mean, I would have done more network debugging on my end, but I kind of assume that it's yeah. My friend just had hit the same issue um, with his 1 p.m. lecture that he was just starting. Yeah, YouTube is worked hard. Okay. All right. So now that I've wasted a lot of time, let's begin. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and then joining again, and then joining a third time. This is the last time if Blackboard Collaborate crashes, or if the internet destroys itself, or whatever. You know what we're going to do? We are just going to record the lecture and upload it to YouTube later. So, we are not going to yeah, be good. Also, it has your actual names on it, unlike YouTube, so be extra good, right? Okay, all right, so that's enough, you know, that's enough nonsense. Let's get started. So I want to talk a little bit more about while loops today. I want to talk about strings a little bit more. We're going to talk, I know I only did 2 or 3 minutes on split, join, and strip. I'll talk about that a little bit more today, and then we'll talk about the exam a bit. So, yeah, so let's begin because, whatever. And it is time. Well, it was time 18 minutes ago, but now it's exceptionally time. I can still play the outro, I think. Let me see. Hang on. This is important. Okay. Let us. Yes, I think if I just open that let's open it in a directory and then open path. There we go. All right, so I can do the outro at the end. Nobody panic. All right. So yeah, let's talk about strings today. We'll talk about list indices and strings a little bit, maybe. And then I'm telling sorry, I'm doing a million things at once. I'm telling my other friend that it is actually YouTube, that it's not him, and because he's apparently been on YouTube forums. Audio is a problem. I just muted myself again. Okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Let me see if I move my microphone closer, if that helps. Okay, first I need to untangle the microphone because I have a pair of earbuds. Uh-oh. Looped around it. Okay. All right, so oh God.
Breaking things, I see.
Yeah, I think I've broken just about everything. Okay. So let's begin. Okay. All right, cool. 20 minutes wasted. Perfect. Let's go. So strings as arrays. And so in Python, we generally call arrays lists, but I'll call it an array because in future programming classes you'll call it an array. Okay, so basically a string is not a list, but it can be treated like one sometimes. And I'll explain. You can access a character by its index. So using the standard bracket notation, we can access a single character from a string. So let's actually just do some of that. Let's make sure that this is working as well. Yep. Okay, let's make a lecture 9. Fun time. String while exam. Okay. So for instance, if I have like hello string equals so if I have I am a string, and you notice that I put these little underscores here. Sure. I always have to can you zoom? No. Not in
You can hit shift twice and hit enter presentation mode.
Kevin? All right. Already fixed. So okay. All right, so let's keep working. So basically, what you can always do here with a string is you can use a string as a list. And so let me show you what I mean by that. You can say hello string 3, and let's print it and see what pops out. So for instance here, 0, 1, 2, 3, I expect them to print out unless I've counted incorrectly. So let's see what happens. There we go. So we can print out, the character at 3. We can print out the character at, say, 9. So what happens when we print out the character at 9? So here it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I expect it to be an R. What's happening? Okay. Cool. All right. So basically, you can print out things as indices. Okay, I'm teaching a lecture right now. So I'll get back to you later. Okay. Okay, so that's, oh, right, and so I should mention that. Well, maybe I'll mention that. Okay. So you can use strings as indices, or I'm sorry, you can use indices in strings just like it's a list. But so you can access string characters as based at their index. But here's what you can't do. You cannot do this. And so let me show you what happens when you do this. So it says type error, string object does not support item assignment. And so there's a reason that it doesn't support item assignment. The reason is that basic data types are called immutable, which means that you actually cannot change them. So you cannot modify a string in Python. So the only way to modify a string, so for instance, technically what's happening if you do something like a string is equal to x, or let's say x, and then you say for I in range 10, right? And then you say a string plus equals, I don't know, a, and then we print out a string. So what's actually happening every time in this case is that this string x is being stored in memory, and then here a string is equal to a string, right? This is basically saying a string is equal to a string plus the character a. And the thing about that is that what it's doing is it's taking the string here, it's concatenating, and that makes a new string, and it's assigning it. So each time this happens, a new string object is created. Okay, so that's how we kind of get around immutability in Python. Basically, like if you want to assign a variable, it's actually creating a new string object and sticking in this new value. So basically, the thing about strings is that you can't actually change individual characters in a string. Now, in other programming languages like C++, in Java, and etc., you can change strings, but Python you can't because they're immutable. So yeah, plus equals, it just means, like if I say, let's say x plus equals 1, this just means x is equal to x plus 1. It's just shorthand for that. Okay. So yeah, you can access strings as indices, so that might be important in future homeworks and stuff. So yeah, you can access strings, etc. like this. But just like in lists, if you try to access something outside of the list, you'll get an index error. So basically, yeah, if you try to print, for instance, here, if you try to print string 123, you'll get index error. In this case, if we tried to print a string, say 17, right, we should get ourselves a nice, good index error, right? Because I don't know how long this string is. I guess it's like 11 characters long. But however long it is, right, 10, 11, 12, whatever, I guess it's probably 11 since we can actually count that. This is just out of bounds, right? Because 17 is bigger than 11. Okay. So I'm going to comment that out because that gives us an index error. Okay. So a string is an iterable object. And so what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that you can actually stick it into a for loop. So let's watch what happens when we stick this thing into a for loop. So for instance, yeah, so let's do that with, okay, actually let's modify a string. Let's see, chr 97 plus I. So, okay. And then let us print out, so let's say for character in a string, we can print out character. And so I'm going to change end equals to this, and so you'll see what happens. Right? Because so the entire string is just x, a, b, c, d, e, f, g, h, I, j, right? But when you go character by character, what it's going to do is it's going to pull off the first character, then the second character, then the third character, then the fourth character, then the fifth character, etc., all the way until the end. And between each one, it's going to have a character of space, pipe space, right? So that's why you get these. This is printing the first character and then the end thing, second character and then the end thing. I think it looks pretty good when you separate it out like this. It kind of shows you that the for loop is truly separating each character, right? So sometimes you might need this kind of construction. Like for instance, if I'm saying, let's say we want to count vowels. That's like a decent question, right? So what we can do, CHR, yeah, that's going to add ASCII, right? So this is in ASCII. Technically, it's in Unicode, but the first 127 or 128 characters of Unicode are the ASCII characters. So, yes. Right? So let's count vowels. So what are the vowels in English? Whoops. E, I, O, U. I'm not even going to, we're not going to talk about Y. Even though Y is actually mostly, it's funny that people say sometimes Y. I think Y is probably a vowel more often. At least it makes a vowel sound more often than it makes a consonant sound. So, I mean, right? Am I crazy? But whatever, who cares? So what we're going to do is we're going to say input, tell me a story, and then here's going to be story, and then we're going to go for character in story, right? We're going to iterate through the characters in the story. We're going to say if character is in vowels, let's say num vowels plus equals 1, num vowels equals 0 to start, right? And then we'll say print story has num vowels, which of course is the most interesting thing about any story, right? I'm sure when you, huh. Yeah, I guess it functions as, yeah, you're right. I think that's because the IPA of that is like J, right? Am I right? And you're also correct. Yeah, look at that. So, all right. So let's come up with a story, right? Tell me a story. What's the story? Once there was a professor. He was not bright. He tried to do do YouTube lectures, but that didn't work. So whatever. Great story. Okay, enter. So let's see. Has 35 vowels, right? So you see what we've done here. Do we want to count them? No. So I guess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Bored already, right? I'm assuming it's correct. So, yeah. So basically, yeah, exactly, right? So, but anyway, the point is we counted up the vowels in the story, right? And I know that anytime you ever read a book, you obviously think to yourself, well, how many vowels are in this book? Like, that's the most important thing that about any given book. So okay, so what else can we do with this kind of stuff? Oh, let me show you how to replace a character in a string, right? You might think to yourself, hey, I'm not allowed to access and replace, like I'm not allowed to do this hello string 3 equals a business, right? So if I'm not allowed to do this, then the question is, how do I do that, right? Because I definitely want to be able to do that kind of thing. And so what do I do, right? So here's one way to do it. Okay, well that way uses slices, so I'm not going to do that. So the other way to do it is this. You can actually convert a string into a list. So if we make replace string is equal to, I guess, engage. That's what we do in this room. Or I guess energize. So let's say that I want to replace a letter in this string, but you know that you can't just do replace string 3 is equal to the character A. So you're like, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do here, but here's what you can do. You can convert this into a list. Like so. What you do is you say listify string is equal to, and then of course it doesn't like my spelling errors, but list of replace string. So what this is going to do here, so if I print out listified string, what this is going to do is it's going, well, okay, so let's just do it. Tell me a story. Yeah, once upon a time there was a programmer. And so here, what I guess there were 13 vowels in that story, and now we see that here it says, you see, instead of being a string, this thing is a list of individual characters, right? And so when you look at this thing as a list of individual characters, what you're going to see is that you can then modify this list. So for instance here, I can say listified string is equal to, let's say at, I guess 3 is equal to A. You can also say ABC, right? The thing is, now that this is a list of strings, you can replace it with whatever you want. But if we just do this, for instance, then we can print out the listified string. And what we'll see is that, and the story is going to be ASDF this time because I just want to bypass it. What we see is that the third character here has been replaced by A. So this does what we want now. So the real question is, okay, well now you have this list, right? That's garbage. Let's make a string out of it, right? So how do we make a string out of it again? And so here's how to do it. What you can do is use the join function. So remember what the join function does. So the join function works like this. You do separator dot join a list of strings. Okay? So okay. All right. So let's try to think about how to rejoin all this stuff. So basically, my point is that in this case, we want the separator to actually be the empty string, because we want to rejoin this like this, and then we'll say listified string, like so, and then So the story is going to be ASDF again. And here what we see is we have EN, E, and then A, right? So that's basically the point here. Okay, let me see if I can turn. Let's see. Is there A? Okay, I don't understand. Well, cool. All right. So, yeah, I saw all the different settings. I just didn't want to be putzing around with it. Let's see. Audio. Let's see if that'll do it. Cause there we go. So there's an empty string before the join because I don't want there to be any spaces between the words. So for instance, if I did this dot join, then this is what would pop out. Right? Between every single character, we'd end up seeing these double bars, right? So that's kind of the thing here. I don't want that. If I want to just rejoin a string and I have a list of characters, then you make it the empty string. So whatever is in here is the separator. And so the separator is just a string. And it determines, it determines what we do. Now, you might be like, this is really complicated. And it kind of is. So I'm not going to... why is the separator first and not the variable? The reason why is because the string object has the method join, not the list object. So you can't do list.join, right? There's no such thing as list.join. But there is such a thing as string.join. So that exists, right? And so it's just the way that Python has implemented this. Now, if you think, hey, other languages did that differently, and it makes more sense to have the list.join the separator, I hear you. I don't necessarily agree with the choice that Python made. On the other hand, it's a small thing that you end up getting used to, so I'm not terribly, eventually you get used to it. It's definitely not like a perfect solution. But the other thing is, like, if you did list.join and that had to exist, then the only problem is that if the list objects weren't strings, then this would probably result in some kind of type, which is, I think, why Python did this, right? They just didn't want, it's not list.join, it's string.join. And the reason why it's string.join and not list.join is because at least if you put in a string as the first element, you know that the separator and the list should at least be lists of strings. But yeah, it's all pretty marginal, honestly. So, okay. Yeah, so join takes a list, right? Join eats a list and gives you back a single string. So, if you did something like my strings equals, once upon a time in galaxy, and then you did something like, say, space.join my strings, then you'll rejoin all of these strings with a space in between them. So you see how nicely this works. So this is a good way to join back together some stuff, especially if you've used split, right? So let's talk again about split now. So now that we've talked about join, let's talk about split, which takes a string and it converts it into a list of strings, right? Yeah, so if the, well, I mean, if the it doesn't matter if the separator's in the list. So I could do something really horrible, like I could say the separator is once. It didn't put a space between each letter because each of these things is its own substring, right? And it only joins together each thing. So remember that when we split everything up here, we split things into their individual characters. And instead of splitting it into, and here we only split it into words. So you can do some really pretty terrible things, like this. Story is 3. So here's once, right, from here, and then here's once the join separator, and then here's upon, once, once, time, once. So the separator, it can be one of the strings in the list. It doesn't actually matter. This is right. This is pretty terrible, right? Okay. So yeah, let's talk about split again. So what does split do? So basically, if I input something, tell me another story. As the modifier and join, yes. So for instance, if you have my separator equals once, or my separator is equal to, there you can do, you know, this. So the new story is here. And so if I split the new story, so this is how, let's, split something. So print this dot split. So what we can do here is this. So ASDF is the first story, and then let's tell another story. In the beginning, Earth was without form and void, right? And something about waters over the deep, and maybe Marduk. Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's split this thing, right? So hit it. Okay, so enter. And so what we see here is that what it does is, by default, it splits it on white space. So, but there is an argument in the split function. So let me show you that. So there is an argument in split. So let's try to figure out a good string. So let's split this thing on A. And then you're going to have to try to figure out what the heck just happened once I do this. What's another good story? I don't know. Let's go. So here's some weird stuff, right? Here's some weird stuff. So this is what you expect to happen if you split it on white space. This is a kind of different sort of thing. If you split on A, then what it does is it says, okay, there was nothing before the first A, so it gives you an empty string. And then it splits here and it says, okay, there's a BR, and then I found another A, so I'm going to split there. And then there's a C. I'm going to split, so I'm going to take the C into a new string. And then I have another A, so I'm going to split there. And then there's a D, new string. And then you would have, actually, I'm kind of curious about that. I think it splits it into characters, does it? I forget. Either that or it gives you an error. So then A splits here, and then finally there's BR, and then the last A, and then notice that there's an empty string after this. The reason why there's an empty string after this is because if you want to put this thing back together, it's important to know, like, for instance here, if you want to remerge this thing, the abra split equals this. If you want to remerge it, you can actually do a.join abra split like this, and then print that out, and then you should get abracadabra back. And so the reason why you get abracadabra back is because these empty strings are there to indicate that there was something before. If this empty string wasn't written there, then the first A would be missing and the last A would be missing. Yeah, so let's see what happens if we do yeah, let's see. SDF, SDF. Oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't like that. Okay, good. I mean, right, so, I mean, in a way, right, that's what you want. The reason why you kind of want it to give an error is because, you know, there's no way for, it's very difficult for the computer to know what you mean by splitting by empty string, because does that mean you're always splitting or you're never splitting, right? So it's kind of like, it's like a division by zero problem, right? So it's just like, it doesn't know exactly what you want. If you put a character that isn't in the string, yeah, I think so, right? I mean, that split, as long as you put something into the split character, and then we split on, say, Z, and let's print abra split again. Yep, it just does the whole thing in one, and it doesn't split anything. So the other thing to keep in mind is that you're actually allowed to split on more than one character. So here's some weird stuff. So there we go, dot split on AA now. So if we do this, then what we see here is that the AA gets split off, empty string, brocad gets split off, and then AA again, whoops, and then bra, right? So so basically the idea here is that, what is the idea here? The idea here is that you can split like this, but generally you should know what it is you're doing, right? If you want this. So you can do a lot of bizarre stuff with the split feature. You just have to make sure that you understand what split is doing when it's doing it. Okay. So now let's talk about strip. So basically, what does strip do? Basically, it removes a white space from both ends of the string. Okay, that's all it does. So for instance, if you have print, let's say my white space string is equal to new line, tab, tab, space, space, tab. Well, let's put A, space, 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 tab, A. So let's print out my white space string. And then let's print out my, oh wait, I can't put the A's on both ends. Can't do that or else it won't strip anything. So let's just see what happens if I do this. So you see that here, this string starts here, right? Because it has new line, and then it has A, and then a tab. But the thing is that the tab happens after the first non-white space character. So nothing in here gets eliminated, right? And so all of the stuff in here is fine. And then at the very end, there's a tab, which is right here. You notice on this string, there is no space tab thingy right after here. So here's the tab character right there. Here is no tab character here, right? So it just heads in from both sides, right? It just heads in from this side, and it just kills off white space until it hits a non-white space character. Basically what it does is this. It just says like, I mean, how can we write a feature that strips? So let's say s is equal to input enter string, and then if we want to actually strip the strings ourselves, basically all we have to do is say like new s is equal to empty string, and then we can say something like for character in s, and then we can say, well, actually, I think it's better to do it with it's probably better to do it with you know, maybe a while loop. I guess we can just do it with a for loop. So basically, if C is in, say, space tab, new line, maybe carriage return, there's a few others, but let's just say that it does this. Then, well, let's say if it's in this, then we ignore it. So if it's not in this, then we put it in the new string. So basically, and also we need a flag. So here's our found first. Then we do new s plus equals c, and found first character equals true if it hasn't already been set. Okay. And so let's see what happens when we print out new s. So this is not going to strip from both sides. This is just going to strip from one side. But whatever. So the story is ASDF, enter string. The string is just going to be like a bunch of that plus maybe ASDF, right? Or A space, right? So you see that this is basically what this thing is doing. This is what strip is doing, at least on one side. Well, think about what I had to do. Go until there was a non-white space character, and so as soon as I find the first non-white space character, then I set this to true, and then once this is true, I take everything after that, right? So basically, I need to take everything after the first character, including white space, right? And so that's the thing here. So, yep. So I might actually, I don't know, is this a reasonable thing to ask you to write your own strip function? Maybe, especially because this is half of it. you know, so you can do the other half. So, okay. Okay. So I don't until after the first exam. So we're definitely going to ignore negative slice indices. Slices for lists, we're not going to do that until after the first exam. I don't want to add more slice examples. Cool. The danger of slicing, well, don't do it right now. The forbidden step, don't do that either. Debugging code, let's not really pay attention to this. I think I have some multiple choice questions at the end. So, okay. So, the question is, what does this code print out? Right. So this is definitely like a this is like a decent exam question if you were in person, right? So let's out, right? So it starts at 1 and it's going to go up to 17 in increments of 3. And so we're going to start off at element 1. So the first thing I think it's going to print out is H. And then it's going to go up 3. So 0, or I guess really we can count 1, 2, 3. So then it should print H underscore. 1, 2, 3 should print another underscore. 1, 2, 3 should print an L. 1, 2, 3 it should print a G. 1, 2, 3 it should print a T. 1, 2, 3 it should print an N. And then it's going to increment again. Yeah, and then it won't print anything else out. So let's see if it does that. That's a good question. Let's see here. Oh, where is that thing? Oh, so many tabs, so little time. I guess I can just retype it really quick. As it turns out, I can always retype it. For I in range 1, 17, 3, print. So S equals this. And let's make the N character equal to space. So now what is this going to print out? What this is going to print out is so let's do it. There we go. Was that the original slide? This is a long string. Okay, so I agree with the H, I agree with the underscore, I agree with the other underscore. 1, 2, 3, I agree with the L, I agree with the G. 1, 2, 3, I agree with the T. 1, 2, 3. Oh, is it because the length? I'm mean. Oh man. Oh man. I didn't mean to do that. Why don't we make this the length of S, just to save myself that embarrassment. There we go. Right, so what was the difference between that? So the length of S is actually equal to 21. I tricked myself. So maybe I'll take that back. This is not a great exam problem. It's probably just slightly too tricky for me. I didn't bother to count the length of the string, right? The length of the string is actually 21. And so this doesn't even go up to the, oh, what if the range was longer than the string? So like, let's make it 50. You'll get an index error, right? So, I mean, it makes it, well, so let me tell you, it does make it a better problem, but I think like 20% of people or fewer would get it. Maybe maybe 10% is probably the right number. If you actually bothered to count the length of the string, like if I didn't give the hint that you had to do that, because I forgot that was, yeah, I mean, that would be pretty brutal. So that's too tricky, I think. Yeah, so I like these types. So this problem looks worse, but it's actually better. Let me see if I can find my slides. Yes. So, do you get a study guide? Yes. Check your email. Yes. So, whoops. Get back up there. All right, so let's go through this problem before I run this thing. So this is actually a decent problem. So let me show you. Did it count the No, no. So these end, like the end apostrophes are not part of the string, right? They are part of the programming language. They tell the programming language I'm starting a string. So this is not position 0. This is position 0. I mean, so the study guide that was sent to you, it was just a list of topics mostly. I intended to. I'm thinking I might post some sample problems that we gave in prior semesters on exam ones. But that all is, it's 100% dependent on like just how much time in my life I have, which is usually like for any given thing that I say I'm going to do, I usually have about like -2 hours in which to accomplish it. So, so I'm always just under delivering. Okay. All right. So let us look at this horrible thing, right? So what's going to happen here? So first, we're going to set I equal to 0, right? And so if we set I equal to 0, then we're going to print out L of 1 mod 4, which is just 1. And 5 times 0 plus 2. 5 times 0 plus 2 mod 4 is 2. So let's find the, let's just change this to 5 to simplify our lives. So what is L of 1, 2 in this case? So basically how you read the is what you're going to do is you're going to look and say, this is sublist 0, right? So this is I'll just call it SL0. This is SL1, SL standing for sublist, SL2, and finally this is, I can actually write sublist 3. So I guess I can write sublist here and probably do that. Okay. I just don't know if I had quite enough space to write it in here. It looked like it might be kind of start to attack the next thing. Okay, so this is sublist 1. Yep, and so element 0, 1, 2 is equal to 7. Neat. Let's do it again. I equals 1. So now we're going to have to calculate. So when I is equal to 1, this is 3 mod 4, which is 3. This is 7 mod 4. So basically, it's L of, let me just do it this way, it's L of 3 mod 4, 7 mod 4. Where's the mod? 4 equals. And so now what we do is we look at sublist 3, right? Element 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So 16. I equals 2. Right, so let me just say, like, this is not a very standard kind of process that you would do in life. You know, this is kind of like randomly jumping around in a list, but here's the reason why I think this is a decent type of exam problem or a decent type of thinking exercise, like practice. It's because it gets you involved with mod, it gets you involved with reading through lists and sublists and understanding exactly how the indexing feature works. Not something that you're like, you know, if you want to say, do you find this out in the wild, right? Is this something that people do day to day as programmers? The answer is generally no. But the thinking behind it is necessary. So, yeah, I mean, so let's just do another example, and then I'll explain how I'm getting the things with mods. So, for instance, here, when I is equal to 2, this is 4 plus 1, so that's 5 mod 4. And then this is 10 plus 2, which is 12 mod 4. And so remember what mod is doing. Mod is always taking remainders, right? So 5 mod 4. So when you divide 5 by 4, right, what you're going to do, the way that you have to think about it is 5 divided by 4 is equal to 1.25. But not really, right? Not really. We're CS people. So what you really want to do is think of it as 1 with a remainder of 1, right? So when I ask you what is 5, it's not the quotient. Yes, it is this one, right? And so the same thing is true for here. 12 mod 4 is equal to 3 remainder is 0 because 12 divides evenly. And so you remember no, yes. And so basically 12 mod 4 is equal to 0. So this is looking at L of 1, 0, if I can type 0, is equal to 5. Let's do another one. I is equal to 3. The difference between division and this division is that this is for floats. Like the output is like if you divide x by y, it comes out as a float, and if you divide this, it comes out as an int. Well, what I did when I plugged in 1 here, 2 times 1 plus 1 is 3. 5 times 1 plus 2 is 7, right? And so 7 mod 4 is 3 again, and so that's how I got 3, 3. All right, so let's think about this one. L of, let's say, when I is equal to 3, so we have 6 plus 1, so that's 7 mod 4. Now we know 7 mod 4 is just 3. And then here we get 15 plus 2, so 17 mod 4. 17 mod 4, as it turns out, is 1. The answer to your question is yes. If you had, for instance, another list equals, like, say, this, where you had and then maybe you had, this is a 3D list, right? And you can access anything here by going like another list, 0, say 1, 0. Something like that. Yep, so, okay, and so this is L of 3, and then 17 mod 4. The way to think about it is that 17 is basically 16, right? Plus 1. So 16 divides evenly, so the remainder is 1. And so now if we go to the third sublist, element 1, so remember this is element 0. I almost picked it, but yeah, element 1, that is 14. And so thankfully this time, since we're only going up to range 5, we only have one more of these to do. L of what? 4 times this, so this is 9 mod 1. 9 mod 4 equals 1. And don't actually put this in any array. Like this is definitely going to explode, but I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes. And then 20 plus 2 gives us a remainder. So 22 mod 4 is equal to 2. And so then basically what we have is L of 1, 2. And so we take sublist 1, element 2, so we get 7. Okay? So actually, what we're going to do now is we're just going to print out all this stuff to prove that we've gotten all our calculations right, or show that I made some kind of mistake. Hopefully everybody's caught me. Oh, right, this is this print here. So what did we say? We said 16, 5, 14, 7. So guess what? We're actually right. This is good. I know, right? It's always better to get it right than it is to get it wrong, and especially if I'm me, then I'm like, oh god. Because then I'd have to explain how I screwed something up. But the good news is I didn't do that. Okay. So I think, let me see if there are some, I think there's like 2 example multiple choice questions. Actually, maybe I'll just pull up a previous exam. Because I'm probably not going to use these questions again, so I think it's safe to do that. The last semester, exam 1 was online. I mean, exam 1 was in person. So the questions are going to be slightly different. But maybe I'll post something. Maybe I'll just post this thing. I'm thinking about whether to post it. Okay. So I haven't really talked about control stuff, so probably I wouldn't ask something like that. But you can basically guess the answer to this one. But like which of these strings evaluates to false, right? So you know, A, B, C, or D, right? Tab, empty string, this is a string, and the string false, right? So yep. So empty string evaluates to false. There. Which of the following types of control selects a block to execute based on a condition? Right? I mean, I think most people got this question. You know, I will say not everybody got this not everybody got this question. I think some people answered none of the above. Yeah, E is looking tempting. So what is a legal variable name in Python, right? So let's go all over the legal variable names in Python. You can have underscores, right? Because like if name equals main, that's fine. 1 is a lonely number. What's the problem with that? So it can have numbers in the variable name. It just can't start with a number, okay? That's the only rule. Yeah, exactly. It cannot start with an integer. What's wrong with $Perl? Yeah, that symbol ain't good. I don't know what that symbol is going to do. I mean, hopefully it's going to explode. And why? So, okay. Okay, so what's the problem with true? Yeah, so now you might be able to argue, if you were really evil, that you could do something like this, but actually it doesn't look like you can. So the problem is that you can actually redefine keywords sometimes. So you can actually be like min, which is actually a keyword, is equal to 3, and then print out min, right? And so that you can do. But this is bad, right? Because you're redefining keyword. So that means that if later someone goes like min of the elements like 1, 2, 3, you know, it's going to be, it's unsure what's going to happen, right? It could explode. So okay. So which type of loop does not allow us to modify the elements in a list? So basically, remember that the for each loop creates copies, right? You can start variables with an underscore, but not with a number. Yeah, so basically, the for each loop where you have for number and numbers, remember that creates a copy. When you have the index of something in a list, you can always access it and modify it. And a while loop, if you keep track of indices, you can modify it. So it's like while loops, some of them you can modify things, some of them may, but yeah. Okay, and then so how many times does this loop execute? So this is one where it's easy to make a mistake on this problem. Yeah, so what you have to do is you have to count, right? You start with your fingers. You go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? How many is that? Yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I count up to 7, right? And so remember, it starts at 2 and includes 2. It doesn't include 9, right? So you have to, I mean, when you see a problem like this, don't just assume that it's uber mega simple easy, right? Like actually count it. Like we're gonna hopefully make it so that you can kind of try to figure out, like, you know, as it turns out, the number of times that this thing executes is 9 minus 2, which is 7, which is also the true, but yeah. Okay. And so yeah, here's a standard question that we'll probably ask. To check if an integer is odd, use the expression x mod 2 equals 0, x mod 2 equals 1, 2 mod 1 equals x, and 2 mod x equals 1. So yeah, so basically x mod 2 equals 1 because the remainder is 1. So if you try to cast a string spelled zero to an integer, what happens, right? Yeep, error is thrown. The reason why an error is thrown is because the string is of an integer type, right? So because it's not of an integer type, it just boots out. Probably with a type error or value error, something like that, right? So which of the following are places are you not able to use a literal value? Good question. So what is a literal value, right? Let me show you what I mean by a literal value, okay? So a literal value is something like just a string hello, right? Or for instance, like can you do this, right? And of course it's yelling at you, you can't do that. Can you do this? No. Can you do true equals x? No. Can you do I guess 3.141592653589799323 equals x? No. So none of these things are possible, right? And so when we say like a string literal or an int literal or a bool literal or a float literal, we just mean something that's hard coded in. We just mean something that's hard coded in that's actually a value, right? So not a variable, right? Which contains a value, but the value itself hard coded as a string. You know, I used to have like 100 digits of pi memorized, but as it turns out, I forget a huge number of things. So yeah. Okay. So let's see. What can't you do? You can't. Okay. I guess it can't be on the left side, right? Left side. So I guess A. As the condition for a while statement. Well, it can definitely be the condition of a while statement. But if a literal is the condition of a while statement, then it'll either be an infinite loop or a just skipped loop, whatever you want to call that. Yeah, exactly. 3.14 gets you to the moon, though, so it's fine. So, okay. Okay, what is it about? So basically, yeah, if you're confused about what a literal is, just remember that this is a literal. Okay? This, right, the hello here is a literal, but now x is, right, it's not a literal. It's a string variable with a name. Are you allowed to leave? I'm not going to stop you. So, I mean, the only reason why I'm going long is just because we started 20 minutes late, and I kind of want to go through these multiple choice questions. Plus, I think I'm very close to the end of the multiple choice questions, so. Okay, so let's see. The list remove method removes by element, right? So there you go. How many times does a while loop run if the condition is false? Oh, that's a good question. I'm considering it. I might give out this document. The only thing about it is if I give this out, that means that like in the future, if we go back to in-person, we have to essentially rewrite this entire exam. We can basically use none of these questions again, which I suppose is sort of kind of fine. Anyway, the list method removes elements by element, right? Element, not index, not elements. So A. How many times does a while loop run if the condition is false, right? 0, the while loop is skipped. 1, it will execute 1 time. And infinity times. So you see that I clearly, right, if you're wondering who wrote this question, that's a hint. I clearly must have written this question. So, because that is definitely something I would say, right? I say that kind of stuff. Okay. Which statement evaluates to false? So he in hello world. So I think that evaluates to true. 7 in 3.7.17.25. I like that one. XYZ in xylophone zebra. And 27 in range 36. So why is it C and not D? Right, so let's print out and just see what happens. Huh. Okay, that comes out as true. Interesting. Right? Yeah, but what's the problem? The problem is that as you're all thinking, right? X and Y are, I guess you would call them adjoining or next to each other or whatever. But Z is all the way out here. So this tests for a substring, right? It doesn't test for is X in there, is Y in there, is Z in there. It tests for, is this exact substring in here? And the answer is no, because it's split up by Lafone and a space, right? So there you go. And then here's something, I guess. I always like these questions. These questions tend to mess everybody up. Yeah, so if you wanted to do it that other way, what you would have to do is you would have to say something like, S is equal to, and then what you would have to do is you would have to say if X in S and Y in S and Z in S. Print. Yep. It seems it's kind of, yeah, it's a different type of thing, right? All right. So yeah, I might just release this exam and you can kind of go over it. I'm thinking we will, yeah, I might go over the problems. I might talk about stuff. Yeah, maybe I'll release it. Do I really care? Nah. Nah, I don't. I might strip off some of this initial stuff, just the old TA's names, just for, I don't know if anyone really cares about that stuff anyway, just privacy reasons maybe. But yeah. All right, I guess I'll do that. You know what? I'll do that because, you know why I'm gonna do that? Because I'm just like such a nice guy, right? I'll post it on Discord as well. So, all right, yep. And I might do a little bit more reviewing. So your TAs next week are going to do some reviews. I might also. So the thing is that these coding questions might be a little easier. The coding questions that we'll ask on the current exam, and the reason for that is just because on the real exam you probably had about 5 to 10 minutes per coding question, whereas you're going to have an entire week to do the coding questions. And so I think we can give you questions that are just a little bit more involved than the stuff on this. So don't take those sample problems as like the total evidence of what's about to happen. But the rest of it is definitely decent problems. Okay. All right, so I think that ends our lecture. So let's find out how to end this. Oh, right. You guys want to see the outro, right? Got to do that. Okay, this is the janky way that I'm going to do it. I'm just going to play it. Whoops. Okay, let's do that again. All right, that's it. We're done. It's over. Let's clean it up. How do we exit?